school to actually up to university level or out in the community. But for the kids, and what you asked before about pester power, the kids do want to go outside and they always like it, but there is a lot of constraints. Teachers are often really uncomfortable, so I loved hearing about, it's obviously terribly necessary to train teachers up. So before we take kids out now, we try and get teachers into a comfort zone as well, because they don't know where to begin. And some of them, there's a steady flow of demand over 11 years, right through the Merri Creek catchment, to take kids out and help teachers take them out. They don't know where to go or what to do when they get there, understandably. And they're looking for help, but what we also want to do is not just take them out and give them structured activities, engage them in water quality and doing pH, but all those points you made about free time and valuing that and having boundaries and knowing a place and being able to revisit over seasons and comment on cultural heritage and, you know, really talk with the teachers so that you can feed not just a program, offer it to them, but see what they're doing and see how you can enrich it with the things that, you know, are potentially available.
Can I just respond to that? There's an interesting paper by Tricia Maynard looking at the UK forest schools, and one of the big tensions that was identified in her research was teachers going into those forest school areas with the checklist of these are all the insects that children need to identify in the next hour or whatever. And there was a lot of tension between the play workers that were supporting what was the play in the forest school and what the teachers from a teaching background were wanting to engage in explicit teaching and structured activities, and the play workers were saying, no, that's not what forest school or forest preschool is about. I think early childhood teachers well understand that, but my concern is that primary teachers don't understand that quite so well.
I had a funny extension line of experience. I was at a conference of outdoor educators, and they decided to have it at one of their camps, so I thought, well, I'll pack a telescope because there'll be beautiful night skies, and while they're off doing their trivia night, I'll just set up and have a bit of a play in the night sky. And one guy came past on the way to the toilet and he said, oh, what are you doing? I started looking at Saturn, so he has a look and he goes, oh my God, and then within about 20 minutes, all of them had left the party, and I know had, the whole conference was there, and we were there from about 10 o'clock at night to 1 o'clock in the morning, just looking at planets and stars and everything else. And what was interesting, they all said, you know, we're outdoor educators, we take kids outside all the time and we hang them over cliffs and we do all this courageous stuff. But at night time we actually get a bit scared because we don't know what this is. So we kind of keep heads down, kumbaya, because if someone says, what's that, we're going to seem a bit stupid. And so what we're saying is now, why don't we do outdoor astronomy classes for outdoor educators so they can be confident and say, yeah, that's a plan and here's what it is. So this fear of the unfamiliar, and also for teachers, I don't want to go there because I might not know. I think that's a real stumbling block for a lot of educators. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I think it's okay if you don't know. I think it's okay if the teachers aren't teachers all the time. The kids can be teachers too, and they can learn together.
But but they're afraid of even starting the conversation. Because they said, gee, I don't know, what is it? That's terrific. We go, yeah, no, don't talk about that. I think it's that fear of looking like you don't know that gets in the way sometimes.
It sounds like a lot of the activities that this group of people here are doing, or the groups of people are doing, are the learning together activities, and I think that's really wonderful.
Can I just say something on that too? Thanks, Sarah. That whole thing about mystery seems to be what causes the drive to explore and to be curious, that if it was all explained to us, we wouldn't actually want to know about it because someone else already knows. So it is, and I think that I had on my PowerPoint this great quote from Einstein who says that, you know, it is the mystery that is the most amazing thing, the awe-inspiring thing. But, you know, it's very hard to put mystery into curriculum terms all the time. But, you know, it is there, it does exist, because we don't know everything. And when I look at the children out there, it is curiosity that is driving them, and it's the fact that they don't know stuff and they want to know stuff.
Einstein used to insist on thinking outside. He didn't want to think in a room, he'd go outside to think. Because he figured all the best ideas came out from people sitting under trees or whatever else. And there's a lovely story where Princeton University had taken Einstein. He was the most prestigious academic you can have, and they kept losing him because he'd run out of the building and just go wander around the gardens. The gardens around Princeton are really large. So the administrator said, we're going to keep Einstein inside. And he said, no, I've got an idea, I have to follow it, I've got to go walking. And out I go. And so apparently still, in the gardens of Princeton, you can find trees with telephones in them. And what they did was they figured, let Einstein wander. If he gets lost, he just has to go to the nearest tree, pick up the phone and say, here I am, and we can come and get him. So this idea that I've got to think outside, I can't think inside this box, literally, it's a really powerful thing.
Can I just quickly respond to that before we have a few more questions? Yeah. The parents, discovering that it's okay for their children to have times to wonder, that's one of the biggest evaluations to come from the program too that I run in nature. Just a couple of things the parents have said. One mum said to me, before having these opportunities to go into nature, I'd forgotten about the value of nature for my child. I'm racing them off to dancing or to ball handling skills or gym class, and to just have that sense of timelessness and to watch my child get lost in nature. It's special, and this parent's learning that that's okay to have a sense of timelessness. And another dad at our day when we were having the river play and the river crossing, he said, as a child I had many river crossing stories, and he said, I live 2 minutes from here. My child's 4, why have I not come here before? I'm discovering this today with this group, and he said, now my child has a river story too.
Yeah.
I think all your points highlight again that we're on to nearly the second generation now of parents at the moment, the ones that are wrapping their kids up in cotton wool and protecting them. I don't think there'd be a parent in the world that wouldn't agree that love their children to explore more of nature, but it's rare. Whereas in my day, when I was a child, I was just out there every day. It just wasn't something you had to plan, you just were out there doing it. So already, it's a relatively new phenomenon, but the second generation is today's kids that are also growing up in cotton wool. Isn't the outlook fairly bleak? I mean, you're all talking about these great things you're all doing, but I would say the people in this room and yourselves are in the minority in terms of the exposure to, the outdoors, and it's a decline.
I do think there's a global momentum though. It's increasing because 5 years ago I was really into it. Whenever I spoke about, reconnecting children with nature, people would look at me with a strange look on their faces. But now they might understand a little bit more because there's a lot more in the media. And over the 5 years, 3 years ago when I went to Canada, they were launching Today over there. And today we're launching the VCNC. So I think the future is very promising, and just seeing you all here today shows people's commitment and need.
Can I make a comment with that? I think that there's a real growing movement in people wanting to reconnect with community. So as adults, if they do that, and that starts to come more into the fore. I know in the area I'm involved in groups that are to do with the community. One is Transition Darwin, and I think this has really raised an idea in my head to perhaps this is all about sustainability issues and doing things in the community. But I haven't actually thought of an idea of kids come along to all of these things, but not actually anything specific for children. So I'd really like to integrate that into that, so there's broader scope within the community. And do you think, that's just a comment really, but do you think that there's much scope for councils across the play as part of their sustainability programs? And does it exist anywhere? You obviously have strong ties with Frankston. Laurel, sorry, do you have ties with Frankston City Council?
Yes, I do. I have a lot of support whenever I want to take children to play in natural spaces. They've actually given me like a blanket cover. I've got the appropriate insurance, just to let you know I need to have roving teacher insurance. We're over-insured, but look, they're very supportive, but not financially. But I think, it's fantastic that all the research is all coming together and knowledge is increasing.
And I think, yeah, it'll be happening, but it'd be great. I think that's something you could probably delve into. Yeah.
Deb, you got a comment on that, Deb? I'm just thinking from a state government perspective.
Not so much from the Victorian state government, but there's in WA, there's Nature Play WA, which is by the Department of Sports and Recreation, and they're trying to encourage more groups like Narelle's group to start their own groups in the community. So it's not being done by the councils. However, it's, they've started off after again inspired by Richard Lloyd and his movement in the US. To start their own there. And their focus is totally, they've kept the conservation message completely out. So they want people to just really enjoy nature, so that they're really into that first step of just, if you love it, then you're more likely to protect it. So it's all about play, it's all about activities that you can do. It's not about a conservation message at all. So that's the way they're doing it.
That was Jacques Cousteau's argument. He said, you can't care what you don't know. You know, and if we can grow up knowing that, and I'll just be curious, have you four ladies, have you always cared? You know, did you grow up as nature children, or did some light go off in your head at some stage? I'm just curious whether you grew up in this environment that you're talking about, or whether you came to it later in life. Yeah.
Because I'm probably a bit unusual from most of the other speakers. I didn't grow up in the country. I grew up in the city. I grew up in a very urban environment, and as I mentioned in the presentation, I was the only scheduled child. And so I was trying, every time I go to these forums, I try and think, well, what was it in my childhood that did inspire me to go on and work in the environmental area? And we did go down the beach. So definitely, even if kids can't get on a regular basis to the environment, if they get there regularly over a year, it obviously has a difference as well. So as long as they have something that they can, grab onto in their early childhood, it doesn't have to be, the exciting wandering around, because I wasn't allowed to wander at all. So it doesn't have to be that. And there's a lot of value in cities, in the intellectual way that we haven't even touched on today. But I was just going to make a point that it doesn't have to be, although it's much better if it is, a regular experience, as long as it's a touching experience.
So you can reconnect.
You can reconnect. And I don't think I reconnected until ultimately in my 20s when I started hiking, and that was my own choice. And once I discovered that, I was like, wow, I'm never going back. This is it. So there's hope. Oh, so many things, so many thoughts go through my head, catching up on other people's ideas too that come out of the questions today. But yes, I had one of those childhoods where we were out, where my mother literally said, okay, it's daylight now, you go out and you come back when the street lights are on, basically. And so we did all sorts of playing, and a lot of it, which I haven't mentioned today, but a lot of it has that element of risk and what I call naughtiness too, which we haven't touched on, but when we designed the Children's Garden, we did design for a couple of those elements because we did want children to go squirt at strangers as they were walking by, because they were the sorts of things that we had done that were a great fun to do in nature. I'm sure you can all remember doing those sorts of things yourself. So the hiding in hedges and spying on people, or breaking into the local wheat silos or packing sheds, or climbing up onto the railway tracks, all of that sort of stuff we did. We were always safe, but we had a really, really good time. And just to comment about the councils too, they're doing great work. They visit us. I think we've had all of the councils come and see the Children's Garden, and they all seem to be really thinking about their own spaces in terms of play, and whether that's enhancing the spaces that they already have for play, or creating new ones, which is just fantastic. And it's a great way to integrate different professions within the council, because they meet the early childhood educator when they come on the excursion, and they're working with the youth worker, and they're working with the designer, and so you get all these wonderful ways of thinking all together, which is fantastic.
I guess mine was essentially an urban childhood, but I do remember that we had two wonderful big willow trees and a big gum tree in the backyard, and they were a source of